Everyone's making podcasts. Podcasts have officially become the meta. All right. It's just like they need to stop. People need to stop making podcasts. It's too much.
Walter Cronkite, basically to this guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons? He believes in dragons. Did you triple
How comedy became a dystopian imperial hell world, says Elephant Graveyard.
Dragons, like I guess like dinosaur type of animals, roamed the earth when people did. So this is the type of really, really bad information that's going out there.
This election was the first time they didn't really have control of the media anymore.
Because what?
Because of us.
Non-mainstream media?
Because of podcasts.
Podcasts. Selling tickets.
Because of social media, because
you're
of X.
humanizing Trump like, well, he's human.
Yeah.
So why can't I?
They've been caught up in all this shit they've shoved down everybody's throat, especially all the Russia shit.
Imagine a scenario where you've thawed a guy out from some frozen cryo chamber thing. He's been in there for like 20 years. And this frozen guy, well, he loves comedy. And so this guy is excited to finally be unthawed and to discover what the world of comedy looks like in 2025, the year of our Lord. So you invite the guy to your house, sit him down on the Chesterfield, and prepare a televisual feast to get him up to speed. And you try to find a way to explain to this guy how this guy right here somehow is a king of both comedy and broadcasting.
He said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us and he won, and this is fucking great. And Joe Rogan believes in dragons! And Joe Rogan believes in dragons! Joe Rogan believes in dragons! 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 Dragons!
And you gotta explain to the freezer guy that you're sorry to be the one to tell him this, but we truly live in hell, and I feel that in my bones. And he's surely gonna want to get back in that freezer thing, but he can't, so instead he slices his own head off. Just a little scenario to think about. How the hell did we get here? It could have been great, but well, you guys know how the universe works. We're all just flying down an endless series
Can someone pin the video? Are there any mods in
alternate
here?
realities inside a vast multiverse. And you can't really control which branch of those realities you are going to live in. And, well, our wonderful reality is the one in which this guy was able to be crowned both the king of comedy.
All downhill after Carlin died? That's not true. There are still great comics out there. Okay? That is also not true. There are still great comics out there. And, you know, Bill Burr is a great example of this. Bill Burr is a great example of this, okay? He is carrying the torch of Carlin. And there are also great comics out there still. It's just like, you know, I would say that the legends of my generation, a lot of them have basically destroyed their legacy. That's it. This is like hearing Taylor Swift and saying music has been dead since Prince died. Yeah.
And the king of broadcasting. And I was sitting here watching this clip of this insane, resentful, unhappy, angry, and unfunny old man hysterically ranting and raving about his belief in dragons.
And then you couldn't believe that. Watch the news.
Illusion. It's all a fucking illusion. All of them, when convenient, have said the exact same things.
Dragons are real.
While his personally curated group of friends, who he's pretty much hired to hang out with him, sit around subserviently laughing at his terrible attempts at jokes,
Doing the New York thing.
nodding along as he continues to spout the literal dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life, and putting on a master class on the warning signs of early onset dementia.
Climate change. Wake up. No, it's arson. You.
I think to myself, there's no way anybody listens to this. I check the podcast charts. It's number 1. No, 2. And it's listed as comedy. Oh God. It suddenly all hit me how messed up this all is. And how this whole era of comedy kind of snuck up on all of us like boiling a frog or whatever. And I don't know if I'm just crazy, but I think this is actually bad. So I started thinking, trying to put the puzzle pieces together. Just trying to figure out, how did we even get here? And where are we going? And does it really have to be this shitty? Was it ever even not shitty? Like, what the hell is even going on here? And just like that, I realized it.
I was at the airport one time and I went to a Starbucks to get some.
Like some of the comedians that he's posting about on this compilation, I actually do think are funny. Like, what's the dude from the ginger dude from Bad Friends? Like, I've seen him I've seen him in like very small rooms when he was first popping out. Santino, very small rooms, like in front of 10 people, and he was hilarious. And you can kind of tell when someone is, you can kind of tell when someone's got it. And Santino definitely was definitely always very funny. Like it was obvious that he was going to be hilarious. I wouldn't say that he is like in the, like every comedian goes on the Rogan sphere. Stavros is also on the Joe Rogan Experience as well. Like they all have to do it, but I would say that there is like a cast of Roganites that are just objectively not that funny and constantly talk about like cancel culture and like right-wing shit, unironically ruins comedy. And I wouldn't say that like every single comedian that goes on that show is like that, especially because every comedian goes on the show.
Coffee.
Stand-up comedy is stupid. And I don't even mean this current era. I mean the whole thing. The whole art form, like the whole idea of it. It sucks. And it's worse than stupid, really. It's disgusting. And it should be illegal, maybe.
I hope I haven't offended anyone.
It just keeps getting weirder and weirder and further away from anything.
I think this guy's joking, right? When he says it should be illegal.
Never
Maybe. I don't know their vibes that much.
Yeah, this comedy is way past its expiration date. It's been fermented, fully soured, and is now completely putrefied. It's... how else can I describe this? We are way past the tail end of it, and we are dancing around in the steaming pile of that fell out of its ass. We've talked about this before, but everything has its cycle. You get that, right? Come on, a guy like you? I mean, there are guys out there who have already been talking about the cycles better than I can.
Intelligent human beings should realize that everything has their cycle. They have their season.
I agree with this guy.
They have their beginning. They have...
What do you think about Jeselnik? He's funny. I mean, it's like a very... His humor is like a little different. Like I don't know how I would classify him.
Have their end.
Yep.
They have cycles.
I think I agree with everything he says.
About to be recycled.
Good. Do it.
We're on the threshold of the end of this civilization because it's about to be recycled.
Right.
Your only
I understand
chance to evacuate is to leave with us.
All right. Our lives have cycles. History has cycles. Culture.
Okay, I want to get to the meat of the argument here. Like, I don't understand.
That guy was killing. Dude, he put the fear in God in guys that have been doing it for 20 years. We used to do Dick Doherty, rest his soul, his comedy clubs. And Dane would have the headliner, like, pacing in the back.
Damn.
He was killing that hard, and he would be like, I shouldn't have to follow that. There's no jokes here. It's like, well, listen to the crowd. There's something going on here.
So instead of wasting their energy on writing good jokes, guys began focusing on how well they could promote themselves on the internet. And then people started making these new things called podcasts too. And given the potential payoff, the low cost and low...
He's saying Dane Cook was like the reason as to why modern comedians that were following his note basically stopped looking to structure funny jokes that were interesting or unique, and instead we're just like bold.
Low effort required to do all this crap was irresistible.
No, I like my space.
Especially for these lazy comedian guys whose greatest motivation in life is the fear of ever having to get a real job. And that marked the official beginning of the comedy podcast entanglement era, in which we are currently festering. Congratulations. Of course, nobody struck gold bigger than this genius, Joe Rogan. There he is. Yeah, this guy never had an original idea in his life. He really doesn't know anything about anything, but he does know how to copy a guy who already did a thing.
Trans women are women. How about most? You gotta leave room for crazy.
Believe women. Right? All of them?
How about almost all?
How about you believe like 88%? And that last 12% that's out of their minds, I think that's a fair percentage, wouldn't you?
You gotta leave room for crazy.
That's what he does with stand-up, and that's what he did to start his podcast, which he stole the idea for from Tom Green.
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It is 8:01. You're watching Tom Green Live. Roll the open.
Tom had the brains and the balls to start his own talk show, broadcasting live on the internet from his own home. And it was great. It was funny, chaotic, and it never took itself seriously.
That's good booze!
Play something real quick, okay?
Okay.
All right.
I'm on Tom Green Live, hooray!
Cool. Awesome.
It was unpredictable, and stuff went wrong all the time.
We can't see the on-air feed right now. It's not happening. Yeah, the live feed's not coming through too good, but we figured we'd sit and wait.
This guy's scaring me. Are we up on the computers?
We're up, yeah.
He'd get mad at his production staff as a bit.
Computers? I want to see a laptop right now with it on the feed. Can I see it? Bring me a laptop right now.
Instead of whatever this is.
No. It's like a.
It's weird.
It's sort of like an Olymp.
Sorry.
Sometimes he'd get bombarded with prank calls, and because Tom has an actual sense of humor and a fully functioning brain, he could play along with them.
Tom Green, can you do a barrel roll for me?
A barrel roll?
Yeah, a barrel roll.
I like that guy. That guy's cool.
I'm the guy you hung up on the first call.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry about that.
Hey, man, I just wanted to tell you.
Hello, you're on the air.
Instead of whatever this is.
I am really into rock, paper, scissors.
How into it are you?
I'm undefeated.
How is that possible?
But whenever they wanted anything, I would be like, all right, rock, paper, scissors. If you win, you can do this thing. If I win, and then I would like pick the thing that was like their sort of deepest fear, you know.
Can we play right now?
If I win, I do the programming on your show for a week.
No. That's worth a lot of money. You can f off.
You were so confident until just now.
No.
Take a month, few months off.
That's all right. Sounds like someone's scared to lose at rock, paper, scissors.
It sounds like someone else is scared to lose it.
No, you're asking me for something that's ridiculous.
Look how mad it gets.
You don't have it. Fuck off.
And number one comedy podcast in the world.
Friends was a funny show.
Joe, you were great on Friends.
No, I wasn't on Friends.
That's a joke.
Hey, stop joking.
No.
But is this all going to be huge? Huge?
It's a joke.
It's such a fun podcast. Such a fun time.
We need to beat Russia. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Fun.
Are you serious? Do you know how big that place is? Do you
Too
know how
big.
much military force is behind Putin? What are you talking about?
What are you talking
What are you
about?
talking about? Like, what if he
Right.
just decides to go nuclear?
Oh God, shut up.
Break down your whole regime.
Oh, that's better.
Tom Green in the black limousine.
Oh, hell yeah. God, can you imagine that parallel universe where Tom became the number one podcast guy instead of Joe? Must be a fun place to be. That's where we're all supposed to be, if anything made any sense in this stupid world. But it doesn't. And sadly, guys, we are all forced to live in this very shitty branch of the multiverse.
Exiled from the...
Oh, God. Oh, these guys. The trigonometry guys.
This is the branch where Stu and Joe stole Tom Green's idea, made a much shittier version of it, and slowly took over mainstream media, comedy, and the U.S. government. As he continues to spread his wonderful mental herpes to all his listeners week after week.
Made your daddy proud.
I'm proud to be your friend.
I'm proud to be yours as well.
Proud.
I love you, Joe, man.
I love you too,
Thank you for
brother.
your time, bro.
Oh yeah, thanks. Almost forgot to thank him today. You can watch in real time the moment Joe realizes there might be gold in these podcast hills.
Dude, I think this was awesome. Thank you, man. See,
Okay, so Tom Green is responsible for Joe Rogan, so he's a villain in the story as well. Okay,
This
he
is the
he brought about Joe Rogan to us.
craziest thing ever.
It really is different, you know, than television.
This
or
is
anything.
way better.
He gets rock hard, praising its lack of corporate interest.
There is no, I mean, I guess the Joe Rogan experience has evolved into not really being a comedy podcast at all, you know? Yeah, Tom Green is the Oppenheimer, dude. He is the Oppenheimer of just ruining the medium. Another reason why Canada blames tariffs, okay? Canada deserves tariffs. I'm blaming Canada for this one too. Canada, you did this.
And griping about how advertising and money ruin anything good about entertainment.
It's not a corporate pressure. See, the thing that f***ed up television,
Watch the last
f***ed up entertainment in general,
idiot.
is money.
Oh, really?
Selling advertising, and that's all. And that f***s up everything. It doesn't make anything good.
A belief he abandons literally within seconds once he realizes that he could be the sole beneficiary of this potential new advertising revenue stream.
We need to figure out how you make money from this.
Yeah.
I
think we
thought
create
money ruined
a
everything.
national interweb, we call it, and then create a mass traffic
like a portal
gauge.
Watch right here. You can see the wheels turning inside his brain as he quickly flip-flops.
Like a portal into the advertising revenue stream. you know? Then
So he just copied Tom Green, and he started the Joe Rogan cast experiment. And just for being an early adopter of podcasting, he was able to become the biggest and most mainstream establishment media figure on the planet. There he goes, stealing Joe. He's up. Yeah, this visionary genius is comedy's.
Dude, the Elephant Graveyard hates Joe Rogan. Jesus Christ. Like, to a degree where it's like, even I, a Joe Rogan observer, am like, damn, dude, all right, like, fucking dial it back a little bit. I feel like he steps in his own argument a little bit. He gets in his own way by hamming it up too much.
George Carmack. Who's George Carmack? Well, he's the guy who found that first piece of gold in the Yukon.
It should have been Mullen, not Rogan. Yeah, I was talking about this with Noah last night too. It's literally a bit. You don't get the joke. Oh, okay, that makes sense. If it's a bit and I'm not understanding it, maybe that's what's going on here. Put me down. I'm a sovereign citizen. No, I'm shaking the baby. I'm shaking you. Okay, I picked you up by your head, and now I'm shaking you. Your arms are flailing in the wind, going, wah, wah, don't do it.
Which started the whole Klondike gold rush. There was nothing special about George Carmack. He was just some guy. He was just lucky enough to get a tip from this other guy, Robert Henderson, saying there might be some gold up there in the Yukon. So George just went up there, and yeah, he found some. And after that, loads of guys swarmed up to the Klondike there and ruined the place as they all tried to copy what Carmack did. And just like Henderson tipped off
Cometown is a great example of like an actually funny comedy podcast, like a legitimately funny comedy podcast that has a lot of misses as well. This is just how it is. But when it hits, it's insane. When it hits, magic happens, and you're a part of it when you're watching it in the viewership experience. You're like, oh my God, what an incredible joke.
Carmack, Tom Green tipped off Joe, giving Joe the idea to start a DIY podcast. And he did. And he struck gold.
Zip up Stavi's pants when you're done with it, little bro. First of all, no, I will not zip up Stavi's pants when I'm done with it. Secondly, I mean, all three of those dudes are hilarious. What are you talking about? In their own way.
Caused a stampede of comedians trying to copy his blueprint, turning everything to shit in the process. Like a plague of locusts. And guys, please don't hold that against Tom, all right? There's no way he could have predicted the consequences of that tip. And Tom's a wonderful man. And actually, just like Joe Rogan, all his riches were never enough for George Carmack. He was always questing for more and more gold, never satisfied. He, like Joe, must have had some kind of dad-shaped hole in his soul that he tried to fill with money and fame, but it never really worked.
What are you saying?
George dropped dead at age.
It's so interesting because Joe Rogan was formative in my development as well. And probably for like the weirdest reason, but like I saw a dude seemingly make his own meta, like from where I'm standing. When I was listening to him first, I was like, damn, this dude like has so much influence and also simultaneously is independent. Like when I was younger and I was listening to him, I was like, this is a Hollywood guy that took the Hollywood background that he had, right? The influence and prominence that he had from Hollywood and made his own lane, right? And for me, I mean, I'm talking, this is like before the Milo Yiannopoulos stuff. I think my turning point on him when I started realizing like he was perhaps entertaining like really weird people far too much, and the shift was happening was like around I would say like 2014, 2015, 2016, and definitely after. Post 2016 is like was a big turning point, and then post 2020 is like when he fully when he became his final form. But if you listen to his commentary, even from like 2015 to 2016, the diametrical opposite of his perspective now, it's very interesting to see. Like sometimes I'll see like old Joe Rogan videos from back then, okay? And he's like talking about immigrants or whatever, and you're like, what? He just became the exact opposite person. Like, how did this happen? It's very interesting.
61, while working yet another new claim. I'm just saying. So Joe struck gold, and as we all know, became the godfather king of both comedy and podcasting, and helped to restore faith that we are still living in a meritocracy-based society. And we love him and we thank him each and every day of our lives. Along the way, Joe spawned a slew of copycat shows trying to coattails his success, to the point where every single comedian now has their own podcast. Literally every single one. And so many of them were built on the...
Bro, it's not just the comedians. Now politicians are making podcasts too. Everyone's making podcasts. Podcasts have officially become the meta, all right? It's just like, they need to stop. People need to stop making podcasts. It's too much.
The same premise.
Not me though. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Of what goes on inside a comedian's twisted mind. What really happens backstage in that green room.
The green room is amazing.
No.
I know it looks bad, it doesn't.
I can't believe it. Well, we all found out pretty quick that most of them are just sick, twisted perverts and dangerous, mentally ill narcissists. Predators, abusers, all those kinds of guys, farting around in that stupid green room in one big depraved circle jerk.
Lucky she paid 100. I had girls in my dick giving me coke from Chewy. You think I'm kidding you? Yeah, you gotta suck my dick in the belly room. I'm making a call for you. That's the fucking gateway into coming to Hollywood. Everybody knows.
Only guy who actually get canceled. I mean, that was a crime. You know what I mean? That was a crime. That was not a cancellation. It was a crime.
20 of them. Yeah. She got to Hollywood, bro. She was beautiful. And when she left, she had dirty fucking, her nails were dirty. And then a year later, she wrote me a letter to the Comedy Store. You sucker, you broke me. I kept shooting sperm balls in a fucking bar.
That actually makes me want to start believing in the death penalty. Send him right to Sparky. Anyways, on it went. And they just kept making these podcasts. They just won't stop pumping them out. And then a pandemic happened, and people were alone, and so desperate not to listen to the thoughts inside their own heads. So they put on these podcasts as mental screensavers and escape into the friendship simulation that these podcasts provide. And the numbers went up, and more guys made more and more podcasts, always trying to outcompete each other by making everything as fast, cheap.
George Santos made a podcast called Pants on Fire, dude. That's the stage we're at.
Cheap and low effort as possible. And then it's just a matter of reading ads for pills or nicotine mouthwash or whatever.
Brain nourishing.
Oh, it's not good. These lazy...
Genuinely asking what crime? Chris D'Elia? He was grooming minors. What? He was actively trying to minors, dude, on Snapchat. The crime is called philia.
Lazy stand-up guys got into comedy because it was the easiest thing they could do to avoid getting a real job. But then podcasting came along, and suddenly they had an even easier way to make even more money.
Podcast?
And then pretty soon the podcast eclipsed the stand-up, and now all these so-called comedians are really just zero-effort podcasters selling shitty products again and again and again.
We'll be back with the interview in 1 minute. First, we want to talk to you about the sponsors of today's episode, AG1.
We should nuke England.
We take AG1 to stay healthy.
And you're looking great there, bud. Jesus Christ. They really have become indistinguishable from those infomercials you used to see on TV late at night when you couldn't sleep. And you'd turn that thing on out of desperation just to maybe hear another voice.
I love you. You have my life.
You might even see an interesting product. Who knows?
Arthritis, depression.
Those are podcasts now.
iRestore, the clinically proven, game-changing hair growth device, iRestore. This show is brought to you by DraftKings.
They're just places these fools can hawk supplements and get free advertising for their own branded crap.
I love this.
And they all follow that original blueprint from the godfather of podcasting, Joe Rogan.
Mom brain is real. It's a real thing.
You need some Alpha Brain.
What is it? Can I take it? I'm breastfeeding.
Alpha Brain is a nootropic that my company On It makes. And I'm not saying this because it's my company.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually a very anxious person.
I have a friend whose daughter was on ADHD medication, and she's getting...
It is pretty funny that this guy who, created a supplement company, which is famously, like supplements are not regulated by the FDA in the same way that like other things are. That guy is also now one of the most prominent like anti-vaxxer voices out there. Who would have thought?
Getting off of it, and he started giving her Alpha Brain.
Very cool.
And he said it helped her tremendously.
Respect for the daughter. Wow.
What is it?
He's become the new establishment, cutting deals with big pharma and backed by massive corporations like Spotify and the Big N.
The thing that f***s up entertainment in general is money. That's all. And that f***s up everything. It doesn't make anything good.
So Joe was getting more and more popular. But with that success came a whole new level of public criticism that Joe was not prepared for and was too weak and frankly lazy to handle. See, one of the core problems with this Joe Rogan guy is the fact that he has that dad-shaped hole in his soul that we alluded to earlier.
To be fair, I think like constantly getting ass blasted by mainstream media that also kind of sees you as a alternative medium that is a threat to their established success is probably going to brick most people's brains. Okay. Given the format of a 3-hour-long podcast, I actually talked about this with Theo Vaughn, ironically enough. Given the format, like at the time, there was definitely a lot that got lost in those back and forth conversations. Now, of course, since then, Joe Rogan has devolved and became this like obviously right-wing figure who says a whole bunch of nonsense. But like, there were certainly a lot of points initially where people were just like really farming for any kind of like smear that they could jump onto. I think a lot of people, especially now, like a lot of Gen Z young men grew up in a climate where maybe they were developing their formative political opinions at a time when like it was the peak of let's just say the SJW era, where for every like 3 good valid critiques that people were launching against anyone and everyone, there was like 7 that was insane, right? Also simultaneously though, the right was going nutty mode as well with Gamergate and shit. And also open neo-Nazi demonstrations, open neo-Nazi content creators, open white supremacist content creators that were on the other side of that, on the other side of the political spectrum as well. But having said that, I think that probably played a role in now in a lot of young men's minds, where they were just like growing up in this media environment where people were just like, "Are you watching? What kind of content are you consuming? That says a lot about who you are. I think you're morally repugnant for listening to this or listening to that. We need to fix our media diets, yada yada yada." And I think that definitely caused a lot of especially young men to just be like, "No, that." Anytime someone ever critiques whatever media that I have appreciated, that must mean that they are wrong. And I think that Joe Rogan and them leaned into that quite a bit with the cancel culture stuff.
He grew up with this terrible guy for a dad.
Hasan attacking his own community right now. That's so funny. I have a very nuanced opinion on this kind of stuff, and also comedy in general as a fan of comedy. And yet every single time I bring this up, there's always another guy who doesn't listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth, but instead assumes that I'm like, accidentally revealing something. And it's not a firmly held conviction that I've maintained for a decade at this point. No, you, my friend, placed me in a box. So when you hear something that doesn't make sense about the box that you've placed me into, you go, "Oh, this must be a mistake. He must be doing this on accident." Or he must feel bad about his like past behavior on this stuff. And it's like, no, this is just something I've been saying for a very long time. Okay.
My big memory from my childhood is my mother coming home with hamburger meat and my father being upset that it was hamburger that she had brought home for dinner, and he beat the shit out of her. And we left.
And do you think that somehow or another that put that fight in you?
Yeah, unquestionably. Yeah. Like, I thought my dad was this great guy. You know, when you're a kid, your dad's your hero.
Right.
You know? And all of a sudden I realized when I was 5 years old very clearly that my dad was a douchebag. You know, there's that feeling that you can't trust anybody.
And after doing all that emotional damage, Joe's dad abandoned him. But he left him with a lifetime gift, a dark black hole inside his soul that he might not even be aware of, and if he is entirely incapable of fixing or even acknowledging. Crippling fear. Now this black...
I do think it's weak, by the way. It's a sign of not having any sort of like fully flushed out worldview, a moral compass, any sort of interest in any sort of vision in changing the world. When you get yelled at by a group of people, and then that just like causes you to flip your script in its entirety and slowly but surely find yourself in the throes of reactionary ideology. And there are many very prominent examples of this in the world of comedy, especially. You know, that's it. And I say this as someone who has been attacked from all sides fairly consistently. Ironically enough, my commentary has also been consistent throughout this entire process. And the reason for that is because I'm stubborn, for sure, but also the reason for that is because I have firmly held convictions. Whether my brand of politics is popular or my brand of politics is unpopular does not change the dynamic at all for me. It's something that I'm advocating for because I know it's correct, and not because I'm changing. I'm going along with the winds.
Black hole, it produces incredibly powerful emotional gravity. All his fears, insecurities, self-loathing coalesce around that dad hole. And over these 68 years of Joe's life, this swirling concoction of negativity has formed around the hole. And that's stressful, man. It's a real bind. And it's actually a big reason why Joe became a comedian in the first place.
Why else did you get into being a comedian?
I don't know. I got talked into doing it. No, I wasn't really very funny. I got talked into doing stand-up by my friends from martial arts.
Stop laughing. It's not funny.
I was very insecure, and I got bullied.
See, it's a sad thing.
And I wasn't big. I was a small kid.
Better music.
And I was really nervous, and I did not like that feeling at all. Yeah, I went to an open mic night. I watched amateurs try it. Like, most of them don't know what they're doing. They're terrible. Like, people who really suck inspire you to do it because they lower the bar of expectation.
And do you still do your stand-up?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. That is the emperor of comedy you're talking to. See, there are two main strains of comedian.
Yeah.
The first kind are the people that are creative artists that have weird brains and maybe even have a triple-digit IQ, and they're driven to create. They are compelled by the muses or whatever, and it makes sense that they're comedians.
I like an escalator, man, because an escalator can never break. It can only become stairs.
Oh, jokes. I remember those. The other kind of strain of comic, and this is almost all of them these days, are sad people with black holes inside their soul who get into comedy to try and get external validation from audiences and to indulge in the delusion of power that they feel when standing alone on stage with an amplified microphone where nobody else is allowed to speak. And probably they should lock their phones in a bag, too. And now I'm trying to think about who else stood on stage with a microphone trying to fill a hole, vying for attention and power. Oh yeah, this guy. Yeah, for this type of guy, stand-up comedy is a dream. They're sad little guys who seek power and external validation. It's classic Hitler stuff. And it's scary, psychotic stuff.
Free speech. That's what we're fighting. That's all I'm fighting.
Dave.
When I'm on that stage, I'm there to dictate your...
Who is that guy? I don't know who the black dude is. I don't know. I don't know what his deal is. I don't think I've ever seen him. Okay, I think it's a bit much to be like, you know who else is a failed stand-up comic? Adolf Hitler. He's a Rogan orbiter. He's a Kill Tony guy. Oh, I haven't watched Kill Tony in so many years, dude. Kill Tony as a format is brilliant, but ruined entirely by the fact that it's Tony Hinchcliffe that steers that ship. Format-wise, brilliant format. Okay, having a bunch of up and coming like upstart stand-up comics try their bits out in front of like professional comedians that have been doing it for years and years. Fantastic format. Ruined entirely by the man who has the name, the man who has named the format. Tony Hinchcliffe.
Dictator at that point.
He admits it.
That's all we're fighting for is free speech.
It's this weird power fantasy where, if they're lucky, they can find enough other dumb sad guys in an audience who will give them the laughter and applause they need so badly.
Would you rather be happy and a lot of people not see your art?
I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy. I can already answer that before you even finish that question. I couldn't be happy if people aren't absorbing art of mine.
Sounds familiar.
Why do you think that is?
Because I'm addicted to it now. I'm addicted to that feeling of
validation.
Gratification, instant gratification, validation, all of it.
And this era of comedy is all built
He's
around
like, you know
guys
who
like
else had
this,
that feeling?
Whose scheme is simply pandering to the most easily entertained, brain-dead audience imaginable to get that quick, self-soothing dopamine hit. And at no point are they funny. And that's the real issue. And they're just too lazy and stupid and driven by urges other than the pursuit of...
Jeremy Piven.
Wait, what's this?
1,000 years ago.
What is this?
I did a show called Entourage.
Ah.
You imagine if we tried to reboot that today in this climate?
Yeah.
We used to have billboards everywhere. Just those billboards today, 5 straight, white, focused men coming straight at
Take me back.
People will be like, is that a documentary about January 6th?
Yeah. That is really good stuff. That actually changed my mind. This era of comedy rules. This era of comedy.
Yeah, you can't make it. Oh, man. Folks, things were so much funnier back in the day. Oh, the wokes, they ruined everything.
Rules. So yeah, comedy copers. That's the kind of comedian Joe is. And it's sad. He'd love to shrink the size of that dark amalgam that haunts him, but he can't because he doesn't seem to realize, or maybe it's too painful to think about, that he's only chained to that swirling mass of negativity because of the emotional gravity of that dad hole. Address the trauma of that dad hole and the rest floats away into the void. But he can't, and he won't. And because of that, he's stuck with that black hole inside, and the dark amalgam that surrounds it, which, in 2020, was about to...
You want to know why Shane Gillis has done not one but 2 SNL spots now and objectively has become a better comedian after his initial quote-unquote cancellation where he was supposed to be on SNL and then clips came out of him, you know, doing not the best bits, okay, especially about Chinese people or whatever. You want to know why? And I do give a lot of leeway to comics in general, because when a comic bombs or when a comic is doing a bit on a podcast and it sucks, a lot of people look at that because they don't know anything else about the person. They go, oh, this person is like a heinous racist, right? Comedy is just like any other medium, any other art form where it's not going to be all hits. There's no comedian that will make you laugh every single time, okay? Just like when you purchase an album and you listen to your favorite artist, there's going to be some skips in there, or there's going to be some mid. It happens. It might not be for you. Okay? No, Bill Burr as well, dude. Come on. He did that like dad movie for Netflix. Like, I love Bill Burr. But, you know, he has some misses too. My point is, you know what Shane Gillis didn't do in that moment? He could have basically hit the cancel culture orbit, and he certainly got a lot of audience, a lot of new audience members that wanted him to do that, right? But instead of crying about being canceled and changing his entire comedy to how sad he was because he got canceled and how everything sucks nowadays, he didn't do that. He went back to the drawing board and he was like, yeah, I'm going to keep making comedy. And that's precisely the reason why now he gets to do SNL. Okay? That's it. That's straight up. That is the reason. He didn't get pigeonholed into being a cancel culture guy. Because if he had done that, I think he would have been like Owen Benjamin at this point. You know what I mean? A abject loser who, tries to get shock value out of you by saying the N-word or saying that the Jews are doing everything, becoming like a Nazi. That's why I think I can't stand hack comedy. And I think cancel culture focused comedians always become hack comedians. Because cancel culture comedy is hack comedy. There's no better indication of this than Seinfeld also being a cancel culture comic.
Grow to terrifying and unimaginable proportions.
Hello, everybody. I have an announcement. The podcast is moving to Spotify. Thanks.
Joe made a big boy business deal.
I always say this, but like, this is another classic Hasanabi trope, but like, yeah, the The moment that you seek out applause instead of laughter as a comic is the moment that you've lost. Okay? That's why I was saying like Nanette is basically, or Dave Chappelle is like the Nanette, but for right-wingers. Where he was no longer seeking out laughter. He was no longer trying to get you to laugh, but instead get you to agree. You can't do that.
Deal with the partly Chinese Communist Party-owned Spotify Corporation. And after that, he started getting in a lot more trouble for making up stuff on his show and like ruining society and things like that. And at first he had to keep apologizing when he got caught lying, which is crazy to think about now, but it was a different era back then.
Historic fires are ripping through 3 western states.
Hello, everybody. I need to make an apology and a retraction. I said something on the podcast about people getting arrested for lighting fires. I got duped. It's wrong. And I said it without looking into it. It's very irresponsible. And I'm sorry if I duped you as well. I know it feels very irresponsible of me. I don't take it lightly. I'm very upset with myself. And I apologize to you as well. Sorry.
The guy was in way over his head, and his inability to distinguish reality from fiction was starting to stress him out, knowing how much he was bound to keep screwing up and how much trouble he'd keep getting in.
Sorry.
And, if that wasn't bad enough, his best friend humiliated him for apologizing.
What do you think about our buddy put an apology today?
Sorry.
Who? You see Joe
Rogan, but he got a fact wrong.
Yeah. Poor Joe Rogan. He put the apology up.
Sorry.
They would tell him go. He was. That's hard for my dog. My heart goes out to him. He had to put an apology up. Sorry.
I guess
things look good when he was. Things look good in the basement, dog. Once you take that Spotify money, you got to start apologizing. Sorry. Make him believe you can't. You know, the poor guy. That's what happens when you get that money. You cash that big check. You got to watch what you say. Did you see him?
This marked the start of the apology era, which would end up being way too much adversity for Joe to handle. And to get out of this bind, Joe was about to embark on a transformation that will surely be studied by psychologists for the rest of time.
How serious is this? Is this something that we need to be terrified of?
So, long story short, a pandemic started, Joe couldn't handle it, and he went and had a panic attack in the sauna.
Well, I was scared out of my mind in the beginning. But everybody's shutting down in the beginning and people are stockpiling food. I was worried about people I knew getting really sick and dying. And then I was convinced that I had it. At one point in time, I was like, God, I do feel like I'm breathing heavy. I felt like my breath is coming short. I did. I had like psychosomatic issues thinking about it.
Guy had a panic attack sitting on 12 elk. You had a panic attack
in the sauna.
And then you felt bad about yourself, and then you attack people with masks. That's how it works. And that's how the hatred starts.
And that really was when the hatred was unleashed. Soon after, Joe kept talking about like shooting homeless guys.
I mean, nobody does anything about violent crime in LA anymore. Maybe we should just go and shoot the homeless people.
I like your ideas.
Yeah.
This pandemic stuff was way too stressful. Then he started frantically scrolling Twitter and found a new group of guys to hang out.
God, I love the comedy side of this podcast, man. That's peak of comedy right there. Hey, man, we should homeless people. Yeah. Seems like a good idea. I think this guy, unironically, as the #1 Joe Rogan hater, misses the different arcs that Joe Rogan has gone through. Because the previous arc, the 2015 onwards, the first foray into right-wing political commentary started at like all the way back in like 2015, 2016. The Ben Shapiro introduction, the Jordan B. Peterson introduction, the Milo Yiannopoulos introduction. People don't remember this person because it's been so long, but there was a white nationalist, like an out and about white nationalist eugenicist by the name of, also Canadian, of course, Stefan Molyneux, okay, or Molyneux. This man went on Joe Rogan Experience to talk about how, like, you know, white people have higher IQ like that. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, damn, bro, what, are you stupid? Are you truly a goddamn ape? Like, what are you doing? You're having these guys on that are not funny, not clever, not entertaining, and just simply hateful. That was the initial era, like the Gavin McGinnis. He had Gavin McGinnis. And then there was the liberal side of that with the Sam Harrises and the Weinstein brothers or whatever. It was a Weinstein. I forget what they're, Brett Weinstein and his brother. That was the anti-SJW era where the right-wing independent media ecosystem was being developed. The intellectual dark web. He almost got me with the arc, but ironically, like having Kyle Pac-Man Bernie got me back to sanity. So many of the dudes that are now like 35, 36 that you knew maybe back then that have just like stayed right wing and have become insane people because of that brainwashing, brain breaking experiment.
Out with. And these guys allowed Joe to believe that everything was actually okay, and so Joe felt relieved and safe with them, and transformed his inner anxiety into outward rage, an emotion he was more accustomed to dealing with on account of that bad dad. But unfortunately, this new group of guys and all the stuff that he and Joe were talking about was getting Joe a lot of negative attention, and that made even more anxiety bubble up. And again, Joe transformed that anxiety into an even bigger rage. And I mean, this guy was getting pissed.
Well, breaking news this evening, Joe Rogan, an extremely popular podcaster, announced on social media today that he has COVID.
Shit, anyone got a lighter?
He mentioned ivermectin is something more often used to deworm horses.
I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is me. This is ivermectin.
You got it
right
with you.
here. Somebody gave it to me.
Oh, this is amazing.
Look, they put a yellow filter on me too. They did. I look like shit there. Do you know that?
I think you look good.
Pause.
And his mind just completely shattered.
That's enough, Jim.
He had to defend this new guy he'd started becoming, and all his beliefs, which were the only thing abating his rampant anxiety. And now he was way too invested in this stuff to ever turn back.
5'3". I think this is really important.
This is the second arc. Like the first arc is the meta that I brought to you, that I explained to you earlier with like dipping his toes into like really insane far right commentary. But back then he still had like Abby Martin on, you know what I mean? Like he still had like COVID was the final stage. I realized that he had lost his dang mind when he had, I think it was Dr. Rhonda Patrick, who he has known for years. And he was just like kind of shitting on her because of her understandable perspective about COVID and vaccines. Like he was just being crazy. He was being crazy very clearly. A person that he knew for years and years, that he had a lot of respect for, he was on.
One of the problems that I've had, me personally, I've had with any idea is that once I have an original idea or once I start looking at something a certain way, I become married to it. And I've had real problems with that. And the problem with saying this happened and that happened, which I used to do all the time, is that you don't know. You don't know. You don't know. But until you do know, when you say you know and you might be wrong, it becomes an ego thing. If I wasn't doing this podcast, okay, if I was just a regular comedian and that's what I did for a living and I didn't pay much attention to alternative media and podcasts, I would be just like people I know who I used to be friends with, who now hate me and are angry at me and talk about me online.
Now you might have noticed that Joe is on the verge of tears there, struggling very hard not to break down and cry. And that's because the real Joe is inside there somewhere dying and desperately trying to be heard. But Joe won't allow it. He's committed to being the new guy. And he puts in major effort in order to keep the old guy beneath the surface, basically torturing him into submission.
And I'm taking the lid off that cold plunge. As I'm taking it off, don't do it, don't do it. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And I climb right in and and because I get through it every day, I start the day off with a win. I won. I beat the inner. I conquered the inner. I got in there.
If I start my day with a win, then how can I be a loser? Well, despite winning so hard at life from sitting in that tub, he was still pretty messed up from all the backlash.
This is the part where it's like, that isn't a terrible argument. That isn't a terrible idea either. There's a lot of the self-help stuff that these guys engage with that is actually pretty basic and also good, like good to do. Okay. Like what he's saying is the ice bath is a moment of like self-inflicted adversity, something that you just don't want to do, but you're doing it. And that gives you an adrenaline rush and a confidence boost that allows you to also turn around and tackle other things. I think the most obvious most famous example of this is not like forcing yourself into a situation where you're working in the ice bath, but instead is the Jordan Peterson, make your bed, clean your room. That is not Jordan Peterson didn't invent that. Like, that is a classic, almost a cliche in pop psychology. And it is healthy and it is good. You won't catch me on self-help stuff like that. Even though there are entire brands dedicated to being crazy, you can't be serious. Wait, what? Hasan felt called out. Why are people getting mad? Oh, God. I really get annoyed when there's like a very loud minority of people in the chat that will go, any kind of self-help is fascist. Like, shut the fuck up, okay? All right, you can be a nasty little who doesn't take a shower. You know, we're not going to be about that lifestyle here.
He was getting from all his major whoopsies.
I would have been like them if I didn't have the access to the kind of conversations that I've had, if I didn't have the kind of mindset that I have.
The mindset.
My personality.
The personality.
Is just immune to.
Got it all.
When bullshit hits me, I go, oh, I know what this is. I grew up without a dad.
Listen, dog, I'm Mr. Body Fascism, okay? Don't even get me started.
Daddy.
I don't trust people. And the people that haven't experienced that, I can understand why they formed the conclusions that they did. Because I could have been them. I 100% could have been them.
Well, thank God Joe's mommy bought hamburger that fateful night. Or Joe could have ended up a guy with the biggest mainstream media platform on earth, being easily used and exploited by weird billionaires and grifters, and allowing it to happen because he's just so desperate for love and validation on account of that dad hole. It's crazy to think there's a multiverse thing out there where a #1 comedy podcast doesn't have guests like some comic book villain evil rich guy. All these nut job.
That's the other side of this. Like, when people are like, Joe Rogan, independent media, he's killing it. And then like half of his guests now are just like direct CIA files. You know what I mean? Like, I thought you were the guy who talked about the like elite, not like became one. What is this? Great. Another episode where some goddamn Silicon Valley nerd is going to talk to me about how billionaires deserve more, how the poor ain't and the cope that they still use is the one that remains. Oh, Joe has everybody on. No, he doesn't. When's the last time Joe Rogan had a actual leftist on his show? There has never been a moment where, since 2015, the density of like leftists to far-right insane like Nazis was ever comparable. He does not want his platform to move in that direction, is clear.
Billionaire dweebs. And like, I don't know, a guy literally from the CIA that's on like once a month for some reason.
Yeah,
and
I hate that.
Also like the entire government, basically. Could any of these people have tried to influence the way he thinks? Nah, man, he grew up without a dad, so you don't even have to take that question into consideration. And say sorry. Like, would it kill you to just apologize for no reason? Anyway, yeah, the manipulation of Joe. I thank the Lord each day of my life that didn't happen. Right, Duncan? Remember you warned Joe about that happening? Thank you so much for saving our dad. I mean, Joe. Thank God he's got friends that still tell him the truth and don't tell him part of the truth and then walk it back a little bit out of fear of disrupting his delusions, stressing him out, and then being cut out of his inner circle. That would be spineless and, you know, would make it obvious that all your peace and love and honesty stuff was just a load of crap all along.
If you're not careful, folks from deep, dark wells of perspective are going to infiltrate your
Listen to me. All those people that are organized, they come hang out with us. Give me a hug.
You don't want to give them a hug?
Relax.
Why?
Just relax. All those people are just people, man.
Like a white supremacist?
They're lost.
Yeah, but you have to watch out because people are gonna like try to exploit you. That's the main thing, is like people recognizing what you are. You have political agendas will infiltrate your and then start blowing out their radioactivity into the world, right? That's a fear.
Like radium.
But like, dude, I do worry about you sometimes, man, because it's like you now have a platform that is unlike any platform that's happened, you know, because you're doing like a...
This is so funny. Like, when someone gets banned and they're just like, I was banned for 3 hours. Any explanation, Yavşak? Turkish chatter. Yes, bro. You got banned yesterday. You got timed out yesterday because you said, who is this guy, Hasana? I'm here for you, bro. Don't bring him anymore. Talking about my friend, Noah Colwyn. You got banned for a good reason. Perhaps we should have actually banned you for multiple days instead of just one day. Okay? Yeah, you were being a... You said bitch made shit. You were being rude to my guest. And you got timed out. Why do you come back in after being timed out with this kind of energy where you're like, why was I timed out? Why was I timed out? Like, imagine going into a goddamn stadium full of people and being like, excuse me, make this about me. Okay. Calm down.
A comedy.
He ain't Turkish? Yeah, he is. He said Yavşak. It's a Turkish
podcast,
term.
radio show style thing, but you're also interviewing people about really heavy duty shit. Then you start thinking like, man, I've got this podcast that lots of people listen to. Has it ever happened where maybe some really intelligent person has manipulated me in an attempt to get me to disseminate some kind of information out into the world?
Good luck manipulating me, Duncan Trussell. I'm an American.
Yeah,
okay?
But you wouldn't even know. That's the thing. You wouldn't even...
Oh, I wouldn't know? How would I not know? These people are people.
What?
They're going to be like, if someone is so good at manipulating people that they can manipulate me and change the way I think about things.
Yeah.
Well, then good luck, good luck, good luck.
So Joe got attached to all this COVID stuff, and everyone was either yelling at him and calling him a dangerous idiot, or they were showering him with praise for widely broadcasting all their favorite ideas about what reality might be, and making them feel validated. So, if you're a fearful, self-loathing, and external validation-seeking guy like Joe, which side would you embrace? Well, instead of posting more apology videos, he opted to fully dive into a wonderful new safe space. He tapped into something he'd been searching for all his life, a source of constant praise and affirmation. And the guys doing all the praising were happy to have found a powerful ally in the new mainstream media.
Yep.
And as if that wasn't enough, Joe also found an endless parade of charlatans willing to juice his rod like he's some kind of god king for access to his wonderful platform and a chance to milk him for their own fame and fortune.
I want to give you the gifts I got you, bro. Got 5 of them.
Oh, I love this one. Patrick David! Patrick David! Bro, I got you. Joe, I got you many gifts. Joe! God, I love him. Patrick Bet-David. That's my goddamn goat right there. Joe, are you value-tained?
Okay, the letter to the right is the Warren Commission. Then you got the autograph of Lee Harvey Oswald, and you got the autograph of John F. Kennedy.
Wow, a 5th place golf tournament prize.
So I hope you liked it.
It's wonderful.
The last one, I'm convinced this is the one that I think you're gonna like a lot. So, this one was work, bro. I hope you like it. Okay. This is with the what do you call it when you're doing a...
Whoa. Yeah, it's called a BPSRJ, a blatant public sycophantic rod juicing. And Joe just laps it all up, swallowing the praise and plugging it into that hole his bad dad left in his soul.
You're a very important guy.
Here we go.
Everybody loves you.
Finish him
I
off.
got a lot of respect for you.
Talk to me, baby.
There's a level of admiration for you.
Don't stop.
There's true love for you.
Harder.
There's true protection for you.
Too
You
hard.
don't need any protection when it comes up to a street fight.
Perfect.
You know how to fight and take care of yourself.
Feels
my
good.
My weapon is words. And by the way, my book is coming out in December.
And these rod juicings just felt so good, and they relieved Joe of the anxiety he was feeling from all that criticism he was getting. And on top of that, all those instances of Joe transforming his fear into rage compounded on each other, and through neuronic muscle memory, his brain began to default to the fear-rage switch innately. And whether Joe meant to do this or not, I don't know, no free will, he actually became a whole new guy.
I've never voted right-wing in my life. I'm very pro-choice. I'm very women's rights, civil rights, gay rights, trans rights. I'm even universal health care. See this thing that Trump's doing with children that were born in other countries and then brought over here as children, and then they're talking about deporting them. That drives me crazy. Yeah, the hard right version of that is despicable. January 6th thing is important, and one of the reasons why I think it's important because it highlights the reasons why a guy like Donald Trump is so dangerous.
Joe Rogan endorsing Donald Trump.
Joe Rogan just endorsed me. Is that?
Yeah. Like he was, there's a video of him talking to Sam Harris, who also is a soul, but all the way back in like 2016, where he had just started his arc.
It's like I see a lot of people online talking about this immigrant issue, and they either don't have kids.
2018, he's like he's already started his like right-wing arc at this point, but he still has like some of these opinions that he's just like,
or they don't think it could happen to their kids. Their idea is, hey, shouldn't come over here. You get those kind of people. Broke the law. Shouldn't come over here if your kid, you didn't want to get your kid separated. If you were in the presence of a woman who came over here from Guatemala and she's poor and she's starving and they're taking her baby away and she's wailing and screaming from a primal place in her DNA that the one thing she loves more than anything is being taken away. A baby.
Yeah.
If that doesn't freak you the f out, you're not a part of the team, man. You're missing it. You're missing it. What are we here for? We're here for 100 years of whatever. That's what we're here for. If you want to spend 100 years saying, hey, she shouldn't have broke the law, I don't want you on the team. You're an asshole, right? And I don't give a you're right or left. I don't care if you're religious or I don't care if you're an atheist. If that's what you support, you're an asshole, and we don't want you on our team. Okay? So, but if you agree with certain economic policies,
bro, isn't that crazy? Like, who is this guy? Who is this guy, bro?
Policies that I don't agree with. And we could have a discussion about it. We could figure out why you agree. And we could figure out why people are allowing all of this money to get into politics. Why are we allowing all these special interest groups and lobbyists to interfere with our laws and influence our politicians and create all this that we don't want? Well, here's the number.
You know what's really funny about this, by the way? I'm going to, of course, being the narcissistic Twitch streamer that I am, make this about me. I had the same exact opinions back then that I do now, which is why I always laugh when people are like, Hasan, you're a grifter. You've changed. That's why it's hilarious. Try to pull that shit on me.
For one reason. You can't just vote online. You can't just vote. It's not one person, one vote.
Right.
It's the Electoral College, and there's a lot of checks and balances that are in place. That's all wonderful and groovy, but it's not giving the trust to the people.
Right.
The trust to the people that they're informed, that they can make their own decisions, that more people should be able to make these decisions. But they're happening now. That 28-year-old girl who won in New York, 28-year-old
That's it.
Democratic socialist. Whether I agree with her or not, and I don't know if I do or don't. I bet I agree with her on a lot of things. I think education should be free. I think we should figure out a way. If we could pay for bombs, we could pay for schools. I think this idea that everybody should have health care, it's a great idea. Who the wants people to not be healthy? Who wants people to be hurt and not be able to fix it? Who wants? Are you really saying that struggling people should have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to get fixed when we could maybe chip in and help members of our team? That's stupid. Fill it up. Figure it out yourself. I had to. You got lucky. You got lucky you don't have leukemia. You didn't break both your legs when you were 18. Your parents are dead.
Right.
You got lucky, piece of shit. These are people on our team.
Right.
Because I'm not talking about people who are lazy, good for nothing, losers, mooching off the system. You're going to have that too. Well, we got to figure out how to educate people so that happens less.
There you go. That's the little bit slowly creeping in, a little bit of right-wing reactionary sentiment at the tail end of that. The mind virus, baby.
Less.
That's perfectly permissible, by the way. But it is slowly but surely. It just like takes over your entire mind.
Figure out how to do
that first part. If you're saying that about the immigrant children, you're not on the team. I haven't heard anybody put it better.
Well, yeah.
Rest in power to Michael Brooks, by the way. You should just start tweeting this clip out every day. It won't do anything. I mean, but look at this. This is from 2018. Joe has everybody on. Doesn't have Sam on. Still to this day. 2018 is 7 years ago. Yeah. Yep. 2018 is 7 years ago. That's when I started streaming on Twitch. I'm an old man, dude. I'm an old ass man. I've been doing this for a decade plus. I've been doing this for like 12 years now. And I started at least like streaming on Twitch with Noah, ironically enough, who at the time was the senior editor of Jewish Currents and was like working with Vice too. And, you know, doing Vice stuff. All these guys, I would play Fortnite with them. Felix Biederman, Noah Colwyn. Isn't that wild? That's why it's also kind of funny when people are like, when you guys come in here and you're like, Hasan, well, a bunch of your like former co-hosts or whatever have, have parted ways with you or whatever. It's like, no, there are people that I met along the way, and some of them actually revealed their heinous worldview in the process, but I'm still with the OGs, you know? Like, think about that. One of the dudes I used to play Fortnite with is my normie friend. That's who I went and saw the Stavros show with last night. And my brother. Yeah, I got a lot of day ones.
Yeah,
You're an
I mean,
asshole.
but that actually
It's just
is
basic
that to
moral
me is the most
distinction.
Anyway, let's get back to Joe Rogan now.
Thank you, Joe.
Here we go.
Becoming a new guy is a very effective way of slipping out of the shackles of judgment anxiety. Simply identify a crowd that you want to belong with, and then reconfigure your entire personality in order to fit in with that group.
It's like, you remember when Madonna had a fake English accent and everybody's like, you're from Brooklyn or wherever the from. You are not from England. Like, you can't do that.
They were like
Yes, they all jumped in the back of a U-Haul truck together. There has never been a thing that I've ever seen where almost immediately I was like, those are feds. A thing that I've ever seen. A thing that I've ever seen. A thing that I've ever seen. A thing. I mean, look, some people are barely holding on to reality.
You're right.
Barely.
You're right.
All they need is one smack, one...
If you adopt all their beliefs and then convince yourself that they're the only group whose opinion matters, then you never have to worry about being judged and criticized ever again. What a relief. This rap guy, Machine Gun Boy, he too became a new guy recently by employing the new body, new guy technique himself.
I'm in a new body. I literally am in a new body. Like, I covered everything on my arms and my body. I left windows to it, but just like there's windows to my old work, but I'm a new person. So the evolution has like led me from a caterpillar to a butterfly now.
Hold on, that was kind of deep.
Transition into a new guy is very difficult, and it takes many years to become fully immersed in the self-delusion. But upon reaching the maximal delusion saturation point, your simulated self becomes more real than your original classical self. And the transition into a new guy is completed. And after years of waffling on the fence, as we enter the year 2025, Joe's transition into this new guy appears to finally be complete. Well done.
You gotta remember, like, they were probably messed up. The reason they're doing what they're doing is because something happened to them earlier on. There was an aggressive, teacher, uncle, somebody that just
maybe a dad.
A dad who was drunk.
Yep.
There's stuff that pushes them in that direction to be expressive, controlling, and wanting to be acknowledged. And
he took TRT, bro. He was been on TRT. Are you kidding me? Joe Rogan used to talk about taking TRT openly too. Joe Rogan is the reason why I still say once I hit like 35 or whatever, and I start noticing my T levels decline, like I will most likely get on TRT. Joe Rogan is a more formative person in my development than I care to admit, even though I admit it all the time.
Do it exactly my way because I was powerless as a child.
And when you said I beat up kids, I beat up other women. Joe Harrison was, when you farted in your house, they knew next door. How could I get away with that?
Yeah, for sure, right? And then that's the thing you see with actors too, and they finally get some success, and then finally you're the man. Like, oh, look, it's Mike. Your bagel's ready, Mike, and your trailer's ready. And then Mike is, get me a fucking coffee. Like, oh, Mike, anything for you. And people act in this disproportionate, very insane.
Please talk to a physician about T-level stuff. Yeah, no shit. I'm nowhere near it anyway. It doesn't matter. Everybody calm down. Every little doctor in the chat, calm down. I would never do it without actually consulting a physician. I would never do it until it got to a point where I was experiencing like lethargy or like a genuinely significantly lowered sex drive.
Way. You know what I'm suffering? Jamie, this coffee sucks. Water. I don't know what happened, but you made it like almost, it's literally like almost like water. Can we get some more? We're going to talk about this. This is the worst coffee I've ever had.
The exponential here, by the way, is,
I have a theory that steroids makes you right wing. Brother, there is something that steroids actually does do. It is diminish your mental capacity. This is objectively correct. When you take steroids, you become dumber. Dr. Mike Israetel openly talks about this reality as a steroid user. So you're not wrong. Taking steroids does make you dumber, which will then make you right-wing.
OpenAI or whoever makes the next model.
Jamie, this is still super watered down.
It just not like
I did.
I just put the water in.
I'm telling you, dog.
There's a ton of coffee.
Get me a coffee.
Set of stable materials.
Coffee's terrible. I'll just tell you right now. Jamie, this is terrible for coffee, though. You like this? Terrible.
Cold ones.
Oh, he looks.
Bullshit.
He looks like
it's terrible.
Sorry. And it really makes you wonder, you know, like, how many times has Joe done this? How many new guys has he transformed into over the years in order to avoid actually facing the dad hole head on?
Well, shut up. I've been on prednisone for 30 years and I'm nowhere near right wing. I am dumber though. Yeah, see? I'm just saying, the dumber you are, the higher the likelihood that you will become right wing. There are a lot of brilliant, incredible, thoughtful, wonderful, dumb guys out there who are not. Having said that, the dumber you are, the higher the likelihood is that you will be swept away by right-wing thought.
And who is the real Joe Rogan underneath all of those guys? And do the old guys still exist somewhere? Or do they float away to die in some astral plane? Oh, or maybe one of those other branches of the multiverse. I don't know, but it's all very friggin' cerebral. So just a quick recap. We're exploring how did comedy get so. And surely you know the end of this cycle is coming any day now. You're all aware of the ever-growing industry of guys pointing out how the ship era is. People are catching on, guys. Don't wait for the rest of the rats to start jumping off the Rogan ship. Be that rat yourself. Jump already. It's time to leave Daddy's house. I mean, would you rather be at the forefront of the great post-Rogan comedy rebuild? Or would you prefer to face a jury of your peers at Comedy Nuremberg? Sorry. Anyway, so King Joe became a new guy. Same, but he did it. He's the mainstream king. And this new guy he's become has allowed him to make a massive power grab within the US government, cementing his position within the establishment. He's the comedy czar. And I honestly can't even tell if he's aware of the fact that he's become the unofficial podcast of the US government. He's got a direct line to the president.
Well, we definitely hate it in Canada right now.
Oh, yeah.
The hockey game, kick Canada's ass. Sorry, Canada. In Canada.
Excuse me?
It's not good, because that's their sport.
Oh, really, dude?
All right, sorry, what were we talking about?
The talk about turning Canada into a 50 for.
I'm gonna be honest. We kind of deserved that. The Canada thing. Like, we did. We've been talking big. Like, we have been so unnecessarily hurtful to everyone. We've been unnecessarily hurtful to the global south for in perpetuity. But we've now also we've really tuned it up. We've really turned the crosshairs over to some of our closest allies. Like, we really do deserve to get kicked down a couple pegs, you know? You mean you've been talking shit? No, we do. We do need to get humbled by Snow Mexico for sure. We deserve whatever SoftBank does after the 2011 tsunami. Remember all the dumbasses saying Japan got what it deserved for Pearl Harbor? Wait, what? People were saying that?
Oh, yeah. He's serious. He told me on the phone he was serious.
Do you really get banned here if you say bad empanada? No. Why would you get banned here if you say bad empanada? You don't get banned anyway. You get suspended probably for like an hour or so because you're like, bad empanada made a YouTube video about you. Can you please watch it and address the terms that he set forth? Like, no. My answer is no. I like bad empanada. I don't agree with everything he says. It's normal. It's normal to fill very different spaces, especially when you're both fighting for the same cause. Okay, we all have disagreements. It's normal. Don't be weird about it. Ironically enough, Bad Empanada himself would be so goddamn annoyed with you guys coming in here and constantly chirping at me. You know what I mean? There was also even a dude who like misunderstood the point that he was making and came in here and was saying some like anti-Semitic too. Like, again, you didn't even understand what he was saying. Is this also your recent position on the JPEG tweet? No, I have no position on the JPEG tweet. What the no. Why would you say Peggy and Bad Empanada are on the they're not on the same playing field?
Yeah, well, first I was joking around, but then I was thinking maybe it's not a bad idea. So funny.
He's become comedy goibles, jobles. Just kidding. But if you think that's slanderous, You must have missed Joe's best friend's announcement that comedy is legal now.
The
Yay.
left wanted to make comedy illegal, you know?
Illegal.
Like, you can't make fun of...
God, I hate him. I hate him so much. It's not even like the hatred that I have for him goes far beyond political disagreements. It's just like he is such a cringeworthy person. I hate everything he stands for. And I have, yes, use the shadows correct. I have a visceral, guttural hatred for him. And part of that is because every time he speaks and says something like unimaginably cringe, I think of all of his writers. I think of all of his blue check marked cryptocurrency bag holding, waiting for the next scam to hit asshole fan base that are going to also go, he is so blessed. I love Elon. He is so freaking blessed. And there are millions of them. And I think of the horde of morons, baboons, cackling hyenas that are just barely being kept alive by modern medicine, even though they actively argue against modern medicine. The only thing that has stopped them from dying at the age of like 7, okay? These pathetic morons. That is what is so unimaginably frustrating about this. The Sorry, I had to get it out of my system. Doge, don't you got it? It spells like a Doge, like the dog meme. A meme off of a cryptocurrency. Oh, I love the cryptos. I love it. USA.
of anything. So then it was like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's
Comedy
funny.
sucks! I can't listen to him. I can't listen to him for longer than 3-second increments. They're just saying like comedy sucks. Watching these guys breaking your brain, he just makes me so mad.
You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Legalize comedy.
But now it's 2025 and Joe's the only guy on earth still ranting and raving about the pandemic, once his bread and butter. And
why are you just accepting this? Because it's a noble thing.
Addicted to something that pissed him off like 4 years ago. Addicted to the whining. He looks for stuff to whine about like a pathetic cigarette junkie, scouring the sidewalk for butt remnants to smoke because that's all that's available. And you gotta take what you can get.
If that Tim Walz sucker, if that guy got into power, that weirdo who puts tampons in the boys' room and...
So this new guy experiment is insane, but it actually kind of worked out for Joe. But Joe wasn't gonna stop there. I mean, say what you...
He even Bernie. He was like, yeah, Bernie got money from Big Pharma. Up. He didn't get... Big Pharma executives did not give him money, you absolute baboon. Oh my God.
You want about Joe, but this guy can overcommit to stuff at a pathological level. Becoming a new guy was not enough. Though more secure in his delusion than ever before, the flimsy tent poles holding up the belief in this new guy were always threatened by critics and like just regular normal people calling him stupid and stuff. So it was still kind of stressful. Now Joe is putting in efforts to normalize the whole concept of becoming a new guy in order...
Is Rogan only relevant in the USA? I don't hear about him here in the UK at all, ever. Someone who is as relevant as Joe Rogan is in the United States of America is technically impactful globally, even if you don't know who he is, if that makes sense. Like, this is a guy who endorsed the president. The president thanked him personally by name. And... that is precisely the reason why, even if he's not like internationally renowned, even if he doesn't have international recognition, but I suspect that he probably has a decent Canadian and decent Australian audience as well. And maybe his influence might even be larger than you think in the UK. His influence is, whether you recognize it or not, pretty fucking vast, just by virtue of like how much he has played a formative role in the development of this new media and how much that has impacted the trajectory of American politics. Like, it's kind of crazy to recognize. But think about it this way, chatter. My hoi bruv chatter. Think about it this way, right? This fucking animal, right, is so successful in the field of podcasts, yeah, that the Democratic Party was like, who is the left's Joe Rogan? And they came to me and were like, oh, you're the left Joe Rogan. You're the left Joe Rogan. And I kept repeating over and over again that you can't podcast your Scottish. So please stop that voice. Okay, don't get me started. I'm E. Fatlaw. I'm Scottish. E. Fatlaw. But yeah, the point is, this guy and this new medium that has played a very important role in this past election cycle was so significant that you got Gavin Newsom doing a podcast now. My governor, Glasgow. Say Glasgow. Glasgow. Scotland forever. All right. Will you go on the pod with Gav? I would. If he were to ask me on, I don't know if he would.
In order to legitimize his own transition. And now Joe has gifted the world a brand new blueprint to copy. It's the new guy blueprint, and guys are already getting into it. We just saw Mark Zuckerberg show up to the Shipcast to unveil his new guy.
We're also lucky that you got into jiu-jitsu, because I think you look different. When you walked in here today, you look thicker. You look like a different guy.
It just turned on like a part of my brain that I was like this was a piece of the puzzle that should have been there, and I'm glad it now is.
Now, Mark maybe wasn't quite ready to unveil the new guy, but you know, sometimes we get a little bit too excited about our new guy, and we unveil them before they're really ready.
Yeah, the Dominican Ray, he got hit with it.
I like racing, and I feel like all these activities, grilling meats, racing cars, are probably two of the most fun things that you can do.
Oh yeah, hunting too.
Yeah, same kind of thing. You've done a lot of that as well.
Yeah, well, my favorite is bow and arrow.
Mm-hmm.
Joe's already dubious.
Mm-hmm.
He's worried that Mark is going to bungle the new guy unveiling here and undo all the hard work Joe's put into normalizing new guy transitioning. But at the same time, Joe the gatekeeper can't help but become activated to defend the holy hobby of hunting.
I mean, that's, I think, like the most, that feels like the most kind of sporting.
What kind of bow do you have?
Gosh.
Whoopsie.
Do you know the company that makes it?
Not off the top of my head.
Oh, that's bad.
No.
Yeah, no, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
This is embarrassing.
But Joe was enthused to see someone else try and follow his path.
I saw your neck. I'm like, his neck's bigger. Your neck is bigger.
Good.
Ugh.
Are you using iron neck?
Sorry, I got to cut it off before he goes into infomercial mode again. So Mark got...
It's like a double suck. It's just like... He's sucking, the other, and Mark is sucking too. I mean, that's Zuckerberg anyway. That's Zuckerberg right there. They're just like, they're having a real good old fashioned suck off, dude. 69 style, you know?
Got Joe's support for his new guy, but Mr. Schaub, yeah, he wasn't buying it. Brendan saw right through Mark's new guy transition and refused to recognize it.
You had Zuckerberg on, and he goes, I hunt.
Oh, no.
I went like this, yes.
Joe's not having it and jumps in to defend Mark and his new guy.
Do you?
No,
what kind of bow do you use?
I think he did. He just forgot his bow.
Oh,
he forgot the name of his bow.
Zuckerberg 2.0, and I love it.
That's crazy that, like, Dick Zuckerberg is such a lizard that even Brendan Schaub can see through it, despite the insane amounts of CTE. Why are you hating on autistic people trying to get social skills? Dude, what are you talking about? First of all, I don't even know how to approach this statement. Like, hey, man, I don't care. He could be a cool guy, okay? That's great. That's wonderful. Maybe he should stop sucking up to the Trump administration and coming on the Joe Rogan Experience and be like, hey, guys, I'm no longer a billionaire lizard person because I've realized that if I just say I'm right wing, then a lot of you dumbasses will defend me. So, yeah, so I made some decisions over at Facebook some of which are going to be revolving around saying trans people once a day. If you don't say that, we're shutting off your account. We've decided you have to try to actively shit on a trans person every single day. We're done with DEI. We're done with it.
And of course, Brian defends the new guy transition as well.
Like, he was Mr. Woke, dude. He was Mr. Woke. I mean, he wasn't, but he was presenting himself as Mr. Woke. All these fake woke.
To appease his lord. It's all kind of coming together for Joe, I guess.
Zuckerberg has always been that way more Silicon Valley right-wing than you might think. No, Silicon Valley has always been way more right-wing than other people think. I've actively talked about this for years and years and years. First of all, I'm not a liberal, so obviously, like, even the aesthetic liberalism that they demonstrated was not enough for me anyway. I already have a fundamental disagreement with the existence of billionaires. Okay, like, sure, with inflation and yada yada, you can have like wage billionaires, right? It's incredibly rare. But ultimately, that level of wealth inequality in and of itself means that there is a dramatic problem. It's a systemic problem. There is a policy problem. Every single homeless person, the existence of every single homeless person is a failure of policy, just as the existence of every single billionaire is a failure of policy.
All these guys are becoming new guys all over the place, using Joe's blueprint as a guide.
Name one wage billionaire. I mean, virtually every wage billionaire is also simultaneously wealthy as a consequence of not just their wage, but also through capital accumulation. But there's like 2 or 3 wage billionaires out there. LeBron James is one of them. I think Cristiano Ronaldo is another one. But like, again, it doesn't even matter because they still obviously have, aside from their wage, a lot of capital accumulation. Yeah, Messi, LeBron. LeBron has a movie studio. The revolution will not spare him. Okay, yeah, good luck. He must pay for. Okay, we don't talk about Space Jam 2 around these parts. Okay, you bring up. That's a fair point, but we don't talk about that.
Back before he completed his
LeBron has Nike ownership shares, little bro. I know. That's why I said you can be. There's not a single wage billionaire. There's like purely a wage billionaire. I'm just saying that there is the existence now of like a couple wage billionaires. But even then, all of those guys also engage in capital accumulation. That's it. Oh my God. So he isn't a wage billionaire? No, if you make $1 billion in earnings off of just wages, you are a wage billionaire. That's it. It's not that difficult, okay? If you purely off of your earnings, your wages have been able to generate $1 billion, then you are technically a wage billionaire. Doesn't really matter because every single one of those guys who are that wealthy also have a shit ton of capital accumulation, a shit ton of capital.
Transition, Joe was dreaming about all of this happening. And since he knows how difficult it can be, navigating society as a new guy and all the criticism you get for transitioning, he started envisioning a new world for all the new guys to go. And he checked his bank account and there was like $1 billion in there from his work with Big Pharma. And so Joe thought, well, what if I create a special place for anyone that wants to be a new guy? And we'll all be new guys and we'll support each other's guys. And if we come together and bind all of our new guy copes together, we'll be stronger in our belief. And if a guy can become any kind of guy he wants anytime, then maybe reality itself can be changed just the same. And then nobody can break the delusion and we'll finally be able to relax forever. And reality can be whatever we want it to be. And there's only one place where we can do it.
That was an interesting video, I will say. Interesting, for sure. This is why we got to start gatekeeping psychedelics. It was a little bit of a fever dream, and I don't know enough about Elephant Graveyard to understand the vibes that he was putting out, because there were some parts of it that were like a little too shocking for me. He went aggro mode.